Good morning or good afternoon, everyone, and thank you so much for joining us whenever and wherever you are. This is the Bridge to Tomorrow's Talent, a podcast where we explore the real world challenges and inspiring solutions behind preparing students for the meaningful careers.
And I'm one of your co-hosts, Dale Marsden, founder and chief visionary of Tomorrow's Talent, where we help forward-thinking companies and education leaders build powerful pathways for emerging talent, closing the gap between education, real-world skills, and career opportunity.
My name is Zachary Hill, and I'm the Chief of Staff here at Tomorrow's Talent, and I'll be your co-host. During the podcast, you'll see Dale and I interviewing different colleagues from time to time.
And on the show, we sit down with education leaders from across business, education, and workforce development to uncover what it truly takes to close the growing gap between emerging talent and opportunity.
So, Dale, I think a really good place for us to start would be for you and I to introduce folks to what we do and kind of share the story of how Tomorrow's Talent got started.
Yeah, thanks, Zach. And Tomorrow's Talent really started 30 years ago when I jumped into public education because that's where the vision's grown from, and that point of service, serving thousands of young people in my career as both teacher, superintendent, principal, superintendent, different roles. And one of the greatest experiences I've had has been leading San Bernardino City Unified School District, one of California's largest urban school districts, very diverse, 92% traditionally marginalized populations, 90% of students with poverty, by free and reduced lunch data, and also being one of the lowest performing large urban districts in the state before our team started our work together. And we came together, built incredible opportunities for students, closed that achievement divide, and we grew our graduation rate from 66.9% to 93.6%, passing state, national, county averages. But most importantly, what leads to Tomorrow's Talent is we grew our pathways from 5 to 55 pathways, creating experiences for students that would prepare them for success in our real world of work and the global economy. I sat on the county's workforce board, listened to business leaders and sector leaders, labor market intelligence, what's going on in the world around our school, how do we need to prepare students for that world. And so we created pathways that really are second to none. I challenge any of our listening environment to go and give us a call, reach out to us, and go for a tour as we take regular tours of some of these schools. And you will be blown away by what's happening in America, reintroducing our young people to not just trades, but the professional career track pathways that are available to students. Everything from the medical professions to solar energy to your traditional trades or professional trade programs exist in our schools really across much of America, definitely in California. And so as I left professional education in 2020, founded Tomorrow's Talent, the goal was to create an entity. I've often said, an entity that owns, our students when they leave the K-12 community college or university environment. I've often said, no one owns our kids when they leave those spaces. There's no system. And we hope that kids will do well when they, leave the graduation stage. I've shaken a lot of hands, but the truth is, when they walk off, we don't know how well they're doing. And the data tells us they're not doing so well. Just in the county I live in, San Bernardino County, 52,000 young people ages 16 to 24 are neither working nor in school. They're what we call disengaged youth, and they're also actively seeking employment. They want to work. And so this divide between, what our school system does to prepare students for success in that world, and the other side, really has been a challenge for the public education in America. I think it's one of the greatest challenges in America today. Most of our other developed countries have, students when they're 16, they're in internships and apprenticeships, getting touches early and often with the workforce. And so, as I went down this road, we really built on some successes we had in San Bernardino City, getting our students that were in pathways into career experiences with our local county as an employer. Great program that we had designed together with the county called Generation Go, Students had 120 hours of paid internship, got made these real connections to people. They didn't even know these jobs existed, and they're great paying jobs just in their backyard. And so that effort really was the starting point that ignited the idea of tomorrow's talent. And I was literally in my kitchen one night talking to my family, and I said, what do you think about this idea? And I wrote the name Tomorrow's Talent on a napkin. And we just started brainstorming, talking about it. And I didn't get a lot of no's. And so I just started with one, company that we'd worked really closely with, just a great local water district, East Valley Water District. Shout out to former CEO John Mira and Carrie Bryant, who kicked a lot of this off, and
Oh
compliments
yeah.
to your existing CEO and board, just doing great work. But that's where the journey started. It was, taking that effort, and then as we got started, things started to crank up. Zach, you were the first call. I called you and said, "Hey,
Oh
Zach,
yeah.
I need I need help." And for those that don't know, Zach was an intern in my office when I was superintendent. He was in high school, then later in college, and served as an intern and just did exceptional work in multiple areas: technology, human relations, really representing the office well, and then helping us and assisting us in just vast numbers of ways with our clients, our customers, our families. And when he was the first hire we had in Tomorrow's Talent was Zach. And now today we're 30 people. We work across multiple counties and continuing to grow even into some of the early edges of Nevada. And our aim is to grow nationwide. It's very relational, our work. And so it's a slow grow, but it's one that I think our attempt is to really address the issues of closing this divide for children. So for me, it's a real privilege to serve. Um, I call the young people because all my kids, I have four kids, are ages 30 and under, young people, and connect them to meaningful, relevant work. And the earlier we can do this, the better. The data proves this out. I mean, when we looked at the early data that encouraged me in the growth of Tomorrow's Talent, I was wondering at first, my first year in, I'm like, what am I doing? I've had a great career. I could just, unplug and go do other things. And why am I doing this? Why are we creating this work called Tomorrow's Talent, this company? And I read a report in 2020 by the U.S. Chamber of Commerce Foundation entitled,
The future of talent finance, right?
yeah, that's right. I read a report in 2020 by the U.S. Chamber of Commerce Foundation called the Future of Talent Finance. And when I read that, I saw exactly what we were building in the middle of that report. They said, look, it's going to take for the future of, our economies to figure this out. You've got to have education leaders engaged. You've got to have business leaders engaged, and you've got to have intermediaries who serve as the air traffic control between these two places, literally building a bridge between these spaces because the divide is enormous. Years ago, Gallup surveyed all the chief academic officers, people like me, when I was a superintendent, asked how well you doing at preparing kids for the world of work. 96% of us said a great job. We're doing a great job. They surveyed the business world. And Zach, I know you know the answer to this question. The business said not such a great job, 11%.
Hmm.
So the divide is huge. We've spent a lot of time in public ed in America focusing on college only and a college-based curriculum, which is good, but it's not sufficient. When we look at kids that go on to the holy grail of college and they complete, in a high poverty environment, this is very difficult. Low bachelor attainment rates, low college attainment rates. But when they get to that and they complete the journey and they've got their degree or diploma in hand, the data tells us from Burning Glass Institute and Strada Education just this last 2024, they said that 53% of students I was talking about earlier who are unemployed, the data that Burning Glass and Strada Education shared were that of the students going to college, 53% of them that graduate with a bachelor's degree are under or unemployed, and they remain that way for up to a decade. And it's just a tragedy, really, of our American public education system. And so we're hoping to put a dent in that. That's how we created Tomorrow's Talent. That's what we've done. And we're just continuing to build on that every day.
Yeah, yeah, no, absolutely. And, I mean, the work that we've been doing to get students connected has had to take a lot of different forms, right? And take a lot of different shapes. I remember like you said, we got started during COVID-19, right? It was the middle of the pandemic. We had some partners who were willing to take that risk, right? Even in the middle of global shutdown of everything, or nobody even going into the office to work. And we had students doing internships at a distance, right? We had students doing with the East Valley Water District, they were sending water testing kits to their houses so that the students could learn the material that they would use in that role if everything was normal, right? And then once they got done with their internship and COVID-19 ended, right, and the lockdowns were, restrictions were released, we were all able to go back to work. We actually got students from that very first cohort who are hired and now working as permanent employees at East Valley Water District, as well as, other experiences that we had during that time where students have gone on to make things happen. And now we're out in the world where we get to have students go in person to
That's right.
internships, right? And take tours and go on job shadows and have employers come to high schools and make all of those connections and make all of those bridges for everybody to really connect and get together. I still remember, Dale, our very first talk about tomorrow's talent. We had to be outside with masks on at a social distance, right? When we met to even talk about what this was all going to be.
That's right. No, yeah, we were at a coffee bean at college over there, and they wouldn't let us go inside because of COVID. And I said, Zach, I really need your help. And you answered that call. I said, I can't pay you anything, but here's what we can do. And we've grown, and now grateful that we're able to provide the kinds of supports and services for our team, so that we can provide the supports and services we need for our colleagues and our clients. So it's been just great. We really do have a fanatical focus on our employers and our education partners to ensure that their students have success. To me, it's really a great privilege to help and serve, to connect our students on a trajectory to success. I think about my own journey. When I was a young man, raised by a single mom, and my brother and I would get in all kinds of trouble. I was on one time, because of an altercation on a ride along with a police officer, said, "Hey, Officer Gary Day," he said, "you need to get your head screwed on straight. Go in the service, get your head screwed on straight." That was the career advice I had. Thankfully, I followed it because it actually helped. It got me a strong trajectory, and I'm grateful to now serve as a veteran of our U.S. Armed Services. But if it wasn't for the advice of one adult who cared, I think about where I might be, and I didn't know about college. We didn't talk about college in my house. I'm a first generation college student. And so, these are things that we have to have systems, not just people. So hopefully a couple kids get inspired, but you need systems to help students become, secured in a future that really looks at their interests, their talents, and their capabilities. So.
Yeah, and I was on the other side of that equation in a way. I came from a family where my mom was a teacher growing up, right? She was college educated,
Yeah.
and
And a
I got
great
sent
teacher. She's a historically great teacher.
and college wasn't an option for me. I was told from a very very young age, you're going to college, that's it, and you'll figure out what you're doing after that.
That's
And
right.
I fell into that group of the 52% where as I was wrapping up college, I wasn't really sure what I wanted to do. I didn't have a lot of clear direction, and so I went into teaching because that's what mom had done, right? And thank you, Dale, as you said, she was really really good at it, and I thought, I'll follow in her footsteps, right, and do what she did. And so taught for a few years before Dale approached me with Tomorrow's Talent. And I'm just so happy to have had this opportunity to really affect so many more students than I was getting to in my classroom day by day, right? 30 at a time. Now we're able to really make these connections for students and go in and help those teachers who have so much else on their plate that they can't make these kinds of extra connections for every single one of their kids. But
No,
we
and
come in to be their hands and feet.
yeah, and Zach, your mom, your dad were right on in saying you need to go to college. One time I remember a parent asked Jeffrey Canada, who led the Harlem Children's Project, taking kids out of the heartbeat of Harlem and had them just go on to college. Great success. And he said, when he was approached, he said, "Look, when in doubt, do what rich people's kids do. They all go to college." And he has a lot of truth in that. But college, we know, is in and of itself is not sufficient. The question really isn't about college or career. This should be a conversation about college and career. The question is, do you go to college then to a career, or do you go from your career to college? I think of some of the students who've worked through our program. They've gotten some community college credits, some certifications. They get a job. They get a job with an employer who's willing to pay for tuition assistance to college. Then they go on to college, and get that promotion. So it all works out. They do go to college. It's important. But what's also important is that they get a job that pays a living wage, a college living wage, a base living wage. So, and if a student is traditionally marginalized, or especially Black males, the data is very poor for Black males who don't go on and get a college paying job right out of college. And what the research tells us puts that completely on its head is just one internship in college. So I think about if we have internships for students earlier and more often, and they develop these kinds of hard and soft skills that are needed to get the job, to keep the job, then we're doing the kind of work that we really should be doing as an entire local community.
Yeah, and I really like what you said there at the end, Dale. The internships are not only about gathering those hard technical skills that we all think about, but also it's such a great way for students to learn. And I know I did at my internship,
Yeah,
all of those soft skills that come
sure.
along with it, with working with other people, with being on a team, understanding professionalism and, how to operate the way that a business expects you to operate as an employee, as
Yeah.
opposed to a student, a really different expectation.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think early in our development, we thought the schools were doing this, even at the college level. We stood back from our master's degree students because we're like, they're telling us they're training them with all the soft skills they need. And then we found some of the students that went into these internships were failing the internship because they didn't indeed have the soft skills. So we've actually written an entire comprehensive curriculum now, workforce readiness training program, trains kids how to get the job, how to keep the job, the kind of skills, the real skills they need, especially in this environment. Now we've got AI infused into that training to ensure students know how to use AI ethically and use it well to add value to what they bring to the marketplace. So yeah, we're super excited. I still remain very excited about the work that we do. And again, to me, it is just a real privilege to help put these young people's trajectory onto a place that will cause them to be a success and hopefully prosperous.
Yeah, man. It's been a few years since we got started. We've got a couple years under our belt now doing this thing, getting students connected to all the different avenues that lead to work, internships, apprenticeships, job shadows, site tours, all these kinds of different experiences that can get them really fired up and engaged. Our team has grown, like you said, we're a little bit over 30 people now, and our reach has grown from just our backyard here in the San Bernardino County to all over Southern California, up to the Bay Area, some inklings out in Nevada, right? And we're just growing and growing. I
Yeah.
know that I've personally helped many young people find their path, grow their skills, and launch successful careers across all sorts of industries like cybersecurity to the web development, from major utilities like water and power, all the way to graphic design, marketing, law enforcement, human resources, welding, carpentry. The list just goes on and on. Are there any stories, Dale, that you have from students that have stuck out to you, or any successes that you remember from the last couple of years that you want to share?
Yeah. Oh, there's so many, and I want to share a couple in a moment. But you hit on something, Zach. I want to really share the success that we've had, in many of our partner school districts. These are districts led by people that really are forward thinking. They get that their job in the K-12 environment is not just educational for the sake of education or education for the sake of college completion, but education to ensure that students have a plan for life after high school. And this runs all the way, like you mentioned, across counties. Hesperia, I think about Hesperia Unified School District, the work that's going on with their leadership there and connecting kids to meaningful, rigorous, relevant experiences. Fontana Unified School District historically had some of the strongest pathways in the United States and just doing great work. And now on to Compton in LA. Compton's led by a superintendent, it's one of the longest serving diverse population superintendents in the state of California, Dr. Darren Brawley, doing just incredible work to connect our young people to these real world experiences. And it's paying off. The story of Isaiah Robinson, at Moreno Valley College, Isaiah, through his hands-on internship experience with the California Computer Options through Southern California Edison funded grant, apprenticeship grant, covered his 60 hours of paid training. And so the California Computer Options Group bring him through this program, and he successfully completes the IT help desk and pre and post assessments, going and making this kind of measurable growth with the employer. Gets an additional foundation scholarship from the Making Hope Happen Foundation, who paid for his apprenticeship. And then after just 1 year with the California Computer Options Group, his hard work has paid off. He's now been promoted to level one, which is a permanent position. While he still remains an apprentice as a network engineer, he's earning a pay increase and expanding his professional responsibilities. And all this by, really focusing on connecting the schooling experience to the employer and ensuring there's a solid divide, a solid bridge to that divide. And so, now he's enrolled in fall classes at Moreno Valley. Tuition's fully covered as an active apprentice. And his story, Isaiah's story, really highlights the power of partnership between this education industry, proving that with right support and determination, students can do it. So we're super grateful for his experience, his opportunity, and again, setting that trajectory so he can, it's get that experience in a local place that'll help take him on to what's next.
Absolutely. And, something I hear a lot when we talk to employers and we ask them about high school, especially level interns and apprentices, is they're concerned that they've taken all of the like hard skill classes out of high schools, right? There's this reputation that things like wood shop and auto shop and classes where you learn real technical skills
Yeah,
have disappeared from the school system. And I
yeah,
think it's so important to tell folks that story has really reversed, right? We've come all the way back around on the kind of
that's right.
education pendulum there,
That's right.
where that stuff is back and it's stronger than ever. I know you talked about Hesperia earlier, what great work they're doing up there. We had an experience where Arena Staffing, a staffing construction company, went and took a tour of one of the pathways at Sultana High School in Hesperia, and they were so impressed by what they saw the students doing, the skills they saw the students practicing, and the just ability that all the students had. That spring they came back and they did an interview session with 15 of the students from the pathway and decided to hire every single one of those 15 students and
Yeah,
bring them on for
that's
some
right.
construction
Huge success
positions
story. Huge success story. All
right
50.
out of high school.
That's right. That's
Yeah,
right.
absolutely. So just really, really great results happening for folks out there. You know, any other stories, Dale, that you
Well,
think
just,
really?
Zach, you underscore something I think is important for our employers to hear, and that is that the trades are alive and well in many of our school districts across America, and especially in California. And I would just challenge our employers, join us, call us, join one of our pathway tours. We'll take you and you can see firsthand. It will blow you away. I was just literally talking with a fellow who owns a manufacturing company just a couple of weeks ago, and he inherited the company from his father, but he himself, grew up under this work and knows advanced manufacturing. It's old school equipment. And I said to him, look, you need to come and see. He's having trouble finding people to work there. I said, you need to come see these programs because the kids that we're training, not only can they work on the old school advanced manufacturing machine, but they work on the latest technologies, advanced manufacturing at the highest level. And they've got the national certifications. They've got what it takes to be successful. And so, we'll set up these employer tours from time to time so employers can see the talent that's being developed and how the talent is being developed. And so we strongly encourage you to join us either as educators to see pathways that are effective in play, or as employers, or even parents, or whoever you are, wherever you come from. Come join because we need more people to be on our, beating this drum so that we can see more students turned on. Yeah, there's another story I'd like to share, Zach, and this is about a young lady named Valerie Rojas, went with Master Tech Collision Center. She absolutely stood out. The employer was so impressed as she started as an intern through the Tomorrow's Talent program, stepping into fully an adult world and usually a male workspace. She was an active auto collision repair shop. From day one, she wasn't just shadowing, she was learning how to prepare estimates. She was taking customer calls, even jumping in on some of the mechanic work. Her supervisor was so impressed that he gave her perfect scores across the battle. And it wasn't just about technical skill, he said, though. It's just the fact that she could apply herself, that she was willing to adapt to the environment, became part of the team. And by the end of the internship, Master Tech wasn't just impressed, they were inspired, and she became proof that when you give young people responsibility, they rise to it. And now she's on their short list to hire as soon as they have an opening. I think that's exciting. And our advice to young people, if you're listening, call people that are doing the work you're excited about and say, look, I'd love to come and see what you're doing and how I might learn about that. You'd be surprised how many employers will open their doors for you. And so we want young people connected to what their future is. And so we know our employers struggle to find good people, but we think we can help with that by just introducing some great young talent to your environment.
Yeah, we love to make sure too that, students not only get the job, but that they have what they need to keep the job, right? To grow and to really prosper in that career, to get to a space where they're not just making it work, but they're thriving and enjoying what they do. And that's so important. I mean, what you just shared about the Master Tech collision experience is a great example where not only did she come in and, have the technical skills and able to work on the cars and do the work she needed to do, but she became a part of their team, right? She really was able to integrate with them and work with her coworkers and be a positive member of that team. And it's just so important in a workplace, right? That your entire staff has that kind of
That's right.
relationship with each other. And it's one of our big focuses here, why we think that having an intern on your team can be such a real added benefit because they bring in like a real hungry, youthful attitude, right? They're not in the industry for years and years. And then also you get that chance to test drive the personality of the person that you're going to work with and see how well they integrate with the team. And it gives students an opportunity too to test drive how they feel being in that kind of workplace, if that's the kind of work they want to do, or if after an internship experience they go back to their school and they think, I like this work, but I want to come at it from a slightly different angle. Maybe there's a different position within this industry that'll fit me better so that students can really land in jobs they love instead of just jobs they get.
Yeah, that's exactly right. And Zach, one thing I want to talk about, and I think that's the challenges that both our employers and educators face. And we often say that this is deeply personal, but also deeply local economy work, local talent, local employers, local economy. That's what's affected at the end of the day. And a lot of our employers struggle. I was talking to one time, and he was saying that they hired through their HR department over 200 people through 30 positions within a year. I mean, that's a lot of churn.
Mm,
And we know from the data, if you have 100 employees or more, you're probably losing half to $1 million a year in employee churn. And a lot of that's because we haven't aligned, interests, talents, and aptitudes to the employees we're bringing in. So one, do they have an interest in the career field we're looking at? Do they have the talents and the aptitude? And do have we tried before we buy? Have we had internship experiences to try people out, make sure it's a good fit? I was just literally today my orthopedic doctor's getting a shot in my knee, and the guy that was helping me before the doctor came in was a medical assistant. Very excited about the medical field, but he was in there basically in a job as an intern learning about the environment of healthcare, and he's fallen in love with it. And it's very easy to see that this guy is going to go on and be a doctor. You can see he's interested in it. His talents are immersed in it. I told him, I said, you're going to make a great doctor someday. And so getting that alignment's really key. We have a great partner we've worked with for a long time called U Science. The inventors of WebMD created U Science that basically is a game-based, gamified type assessment for students' interests, talents, and aptitudes, and shows them where they might fit best, some things they might think about doing that maybe they weren't thinking about previously. And a lot of our kids in traditionally marginalized communities, they don't know what they don't know. They don't know where they want to go. They don't know what they should be thinking about doing. And shout out to U Science, man, their program is fantastic. And the fact that they work with us in that and help us as a partner to use that assessment to help students. Man, if you're a school district and you're not using U Science, you need to start. I mean, it is just a fantastic program to help students get connected to these experiences, really assessing their interests, talents, and aptitudes. And so, and then our educators, they struggle because they've got a full-time job of teaching, preparing their class and their kids. They don't have time to reach out to employers and connect and make these kinds of connections. And we've got to do this as an entire ecosystem in our community with the workforce, the employers being ready, the educators being ready, and intermediary intermediaries being ready. And the other challenge I'll say that are we're seeing within the public education environment, we've seen an escalation in the recent years post COVID. I mean, this was already happening pre-COVID, but post COVID exponential growth of challenges in mental health, social emotional learning, and I will tell you that nothing gives students more hope than having something meaningful to look forward to in their day work at school. Many of our students, and Gallup showed us this data many years ago about the engagement of students. The most engaged they are is when they're in kindergarten. Every year after that, all the way through college, they grow more and more disengaged. And what happens is when we don't give students rigorous, relevant experiences to tie their learning to, they begin to check out. Either physically check out, like drop out of school, or they start taking stuff to numb the pain, or they mentally are checked out. These are things that are happening. Social emotional learning challenges. A lot of times we put all our money and all our energies into trying to, fix the symptoms when we don't go to the core root of the problem. Gallup years ago surveyed the entire planet, and they said, they found that what everybody wants, no matter where you live, no matter the color of your skin, the language you speak, your income status, everybody in the world wants the same thing. They want a great job to provide for their family. Our young people want that. Many of them growing up in homes that they don't have what they need to provide for their families. They don't have hope for a future. They don't have hope to get out of this economic place. So really the key to developing a local economy is to develop our local youth. And what better way to do that than reach out to them? And let me just share with you, Zach, I know you know this, you've seen it, but for our employers that are listening, let me share with you, there's another benefit to having students as interns in your environment. And it's one we didn't see before, but we're starting to document it. And it's one where the employer and the employees that are working with a student, their engagement in the workforce, and Gallup talks a lot about employee engagement in the workforce, their engagement in the workforce kicks up through the roof when they're helping support another young person get that job and become engaged in their profession. Employees love nothing more than talking about the work they're doing with others, and that in turn increases their engagement. You increase their engagement, you improve your bottom line. That's a real truth that I think more of our employers would do well to draw into.
Yeah, yeah, no, but completely agree, Dale. And you're right. I've seen that in action many, many times with so many of our clients. And you just touched on so many pieces there that were really a big part of, my at least personal why on why we do this music. Getting those students exposed to careers that they may not even think about, they may not even know about that are out there for them to go attack. And best example I can think of, and it was our very first partner, right? East Valley Water District in the water industry, is so many students have no concept that the industry jobs or the utility jobs exist out there for them to go take, that opportunity is even there for them. And there's so many other jobs like that,
That's right.
where there's just these services or these things that happen for us that we don't think about, but there's a whole team of people, a whole host of individuals behind that, making that work happen every day that students can go become a part of, that they can make their career. And we just love giving them that introduction, right? That tour or that, experience where they get to go try something that they may have never even considered before and see if it's something that they want to do for work. And like you said, they get that push from U Science, which tells them what they might be good at, what they're already good at, what they might be interested in based on the kinds of things they like. And not only that, but it shows them the career path that they'd have to follow to go there, how much college it's going to take, when they can jump off of the college route and start working and maybe return to college at a later date to pursue, further career development. Just that really at the end of the day comes down to my why is letting students get access to those jobs and those career opportunities that may have not even ever occurred to them and that can support them and their family through a really happy, thriving life.
That's right. And Zach, our mission at Tomorrow's Talent is we bridge people to passion and purpose. That's first and foremost. We bridge people to passion and purpose. I mean, that's the kind of employee you want that has passion, and young people thrive today around purpose. And our vision is a world where every young person thrives toward their passion. And our core belief about that is we believe everyone wins when people get to do the work they love. Everyone wins when people get to do the work they love. So we have an audacious goal of 1 million young adults engaged in real world work-based learning experiences by 2030. That's a big goal. It's audacious, but our aim is there. Our vision is clear. Our why is clear. Why we do what we do. And so, yeah, I'm right with you. This is who we are. This is how we are. Um, and here at Tomorrow's Talent, we are always looking to bridge young adults to meaningful careers, build pathways and programs to help them get there, and brighten the future and the bottom line for everyone, from student to employer.
Thank you, everybody, for joining us today. Thank you, Dale, for setting aside the time for us to make this happen. Everybody else for listening and watching along. If you're watching us on YouTube, please take a moment to click that like button, leave a comment, and subscribe to the channel so that you can get future episodes of The Bridge to Tomorrow's Talent and any other videos we produce showing off exciting employers or great pathways at high school that we'll put out here. But please, if you want to learn more about the modern workforce and how we can all adapt and overcome these new challenges, make sure to subscribe to the channel. And if you're just listening to us as an audio only podcast, thank you so much for being here. Please do leave us a comment or, favorite the episode, subscribe to the series so that you can get further episodes and push it out to other folks on your team that you think could benefit from hearing this message.
Yeah, and if today's conversation sparked ideas, inspired action, or opened your eyes to new possibilities, we'd love for you to leave a review and share this episode with someone who cares about the future of work as much as you do, or maybe introduce us to people that are very interested in this kind of space that we should talk to. You can contact us through our website, tomorrowstalent.org, and one of our team members will follow up with you directly, or feel free to email me directly at dale@tomorrowstalent.org. At Tomorrow's Talent, we're building pathways that close the gap between education, real world skills, and meaningful careers. And we're glad you're here to help us do it. Let's keep building the bridge to tomorrow's talent together. See you on the next episode. Thank you so much.
See you next time. Thank you.